For Monday, February 10th, 2025 to order. The City of Dawson Creek acknowledges that we are privileged to live and work on Treaty 8 territory and the traditional home of the Cree, Danazé, Saulteaux, Sicanee, and Slavey First Nations. We value the Métis peoples that live and gather here. We commit to upholding the respectful relationships these nations have built with the land, and we acknowledge our responsibility to carry that forward today and into the future. Two delegations, 2.1, we have Margaret Keith and Lynn Washington here with the Peace Country Roots Group in attendance regarding proclamation to declare February 17th to the 23rd, 2025 as Heritage Week. So good morning and welcome. Okay, I will read this out. So where... I don't bite. Whereas Heritage Week is celebrated each year to recognize the importance and diversity of British Columbia's heritage and historical places. And whereas the theme of Heritage Week 2025 is heritage, pastimes and past times, which explores the rich history of activities, traditions, and leisure pursuits that have shaped the South Peace area's community for over the years. Heritage Week invites you to immerse yourself in the past times that left lasting impressions on the places we call home and reflect on how these activities continue to influence our lives today. We celebrate the many ways people spent their leisure time throughout history. Now, therefore, I, Darcy Dober, Mayor of the City of Dawson Creek, do hereby proclaim February 17th to the 23rd as Heritage Week in the City of Dawson Creek and encourage all citizens to join me in this worthy observance. So yeah, an exciting time and week, but really I just want to thank both of you for your contributions to the history of our region and our community and how much passion you've put into that. It's clear that you care about what you're doing and you care about the region, and yeah, you do so much to protect that and to share it, so thank you. So yeah, you're welcome. So I don't know if you had a few things you wanted to add. We have a mic here just for anybody that's listening out of here. So
thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, you're welcome.
As the Mayor was saying, it's the third week in BC is declared Heritage Week, and special events that we're going to have. Our Roots Group is setting up a display at the Co-op food store kiosk on Saturday, February 22nd. From 12:30 to 3, so you're welcome to come down, maybe try your hand at crokinole, or maybe you're practiced at that. We have checkerboards, and Lynn's going to dig out her old Monopoly game. And as an ongoing project, we're still working on recording the Dawson Creek City Cemetery information. We've taken pictures of all of the sites at the cemetery there. We're putting them on our webpage, which is www.peacecountryRoots.ca. We're always looking for new members. We meet once a month. It's usually the third Saturday in the annex in front of the art gallery. We'd welcome new members. Thank you for this time this morning.
Yeah, thank you. Did you want to add?
Oh, this is just our poster.
Okay,
So
perfect. You had me at crokinole.
You're going to come down?
Yeah. I think I'm around that weekend too, actually. You said it's from 12 till?
12:30 to 3.
12:30 to 3. That might not be enough time to play Monopoly, though.
No.
2.5 hours?
No, probably not.
Perfect. We'll get a picture here.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your day. Stay warm.
We will.
Yeah. Nice seeing you. All right, our next order of business is 2.2. We have Ryan Leawood and Grady MacTavish with MacWood Film Arts Development Society in attendance regarding a request for sponsorship for the MacWood short film course. So, morning Ryan, good morning Grady.
Good morning. your mayor, council, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us and listen to us today. Also, good morning. Not a good morning, though, if you are a Chiefs fan, so I do apologize for that.
I'm told that's some sort of sports reference.
This guy's a big sports guy. So we're here today as the MacWood Film Arts Development Society. We're a registered nonprofit here in Dawson Creek. Our mission and our goal is to establish education and career opportunities in filmmaking in the Peace region. As we said, I'm Grady MacTavish.
I'm Ryan Leawood.
And today we're here to talk about the MacWood short film course and a sponsorship proposal with the city of Dawson Creek. There we go.
So, who is MacWood? We are born and raised in Dawson Creek. We've been locals all our lives. We've produced 50 short films, 20 commercials, and 3 feature films right here in Dawson. We're passionate about education, and we've taught courses at SD59, the local library, and at KPAC. We both have certificates in filmmaking of various sorts as well. So, course overview and how it helps support the arts in Dawson Creek.
So our students learn how to make movies by
Making their own movies through project-based learning. So what are the benefits of project-based learning?
So each student will write, direct, and edit their own festival quality short film around 5 to 10 minutes long. They'll be using our own gear and equipment donated from our for-profit business MacWood Productions. So each film looks like a Hollywood production. Each student will then rotate out for crew roles and actually acting roles as well. So each student will actually act as their own crew and their own actors as well, so they get the full breadth of the filmmaking experience. That will all culminate in a red carpet premiere at KPAC on May 29th. This will be a fun community event that brings everyone together, local art with local people.
So some miscellaneous notes. We have partnered with KPAC, so the entire breadth of the course will take place in the building. The course is 19 plus. It runs for 12 weeks from March 6th to May 29th when we'll have the premiere. It costs $300 per student, and we'll have guest speakers to cover various aspects of filmmaking.
So affordability is a big concern for Ryan and I, especially in this day and age. Not a lot of people have disposable income, especially when it comes to the price of rent and groceries. So we want to make it as affordable for people and make education fun, and you don't have to break the bank to do that. Say that 5 times fast. So we have a couple of things in place to help out people. First and foremost, we have a payment plan. So instead of students can choose, rather than paying the $300 in full, they can actually pay $100 every 4 weeks. So that should help out a little bit. If that's still too much, we do have bursaries that are built into our project budget to reduce the price for 15 students. This would reduce the price from $300 to around $30 for each student.
So in terms of the budget, the total proposed budget is $26,000. Please excuse the typo on the presentation, and we intend to raise that through sponsorships. That covers wages, equipment, laptops for students, and bursaries like Grady mentioned. Please see the budget top sheet in the documentation we've provided. If we're unable to raise the full amount, we still intend to put on the course just with a reduced scope.
So we have 4 sponsorship tiers with the course here, starting at $2,500, going all the way up to $15,000. I won't go into the specifics of the tiers itself, just for the sake of brevity, but for example, the main difference between the tiers is the amount of times the logo for a company or institution appears. So, for example, the $2,500 tier, the logo, let's say the City of Dawson Creek, for example, sponsors, their logo would be on the poster for the event. We'd have a short social media write-up as well, thanking them for their contribution. But then if we go to the $15,000 one, We'd have a dedicated logo in our classroom at all times. The textbooks that we're actually producing for the course would have the logo as well, in addition to the other social media aspects. You can see more information again in our proposal document. So that's all well and good, but why sponsor and how does this help Dawson Creek? Because that's why we're all here.
So the perks of sponsoring, one of the biggest ones for us is that you're helping support arts education right here in Dawson Creek, as there's currently nowhere to learn photography and filmmaking. It develops local talent, and we intend to keep them here. We don't want to have people move away from Dawson to pursue passions. I myself had the opportunity to attend Vancouver Film School online, but the cost was egregiously high for the 2 courses that I took, and I'm saddened that I wasn't able to do it locally. But not only that, it strengthens our community and culture through art made locally in our area, and it supports the growing film community here.
So long term, our goal with the society, with our nonprofit, is we truly want to make Dawson Creek the filmmaking capital of Northern BC. We want to continue to make award-winning short films with our for-profit business, MacWood Productions. And we also want to continue and facilitate other people to make award-winning productions here. In addition to that, we want to bring smaller independent productions up from Vancouver. Budgets within $5 to $10 million. That's a very likely scenario. They actually do get a tax incentive the farther away they shoot from Vancouver or Toronto. So they do get money back if they shoot in Dawson Creek. We also have a variety of beautiful shooting locations. In addition to that, if we continue education and we continue supporting arts education here in the Peace region, we will have trained crew members and people trained and educated in filmmaking, so we can actually have these productions hire locally. And that would also help with tourism as well, in terms of people visiting shooting locations if any of these movies become popular, like Hard Reset.
I know I touched on this point previously, but one of our biggest wants for this is to have people have the chance to stay here and make their own films. So by investing in the short film course, you're helping facilitate the film industry right here in Dawson Creek.
Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you both for taking the time to come in this morning, also taking the time to put these presentations together and the proposals and the budget. So
Of course.
I definitely appreciate you taking the time and what you're doing for the arts and culture in the community. You can definitely see your passion in it, so thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll open up to council for any questions. Councillor McDonald?
No, thank you, Worship. I'm just curious, how many hours of learning will your students expect? And is this going to be just evening classes, day classes? What's it going to be?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, we'll have classes on Thursdays and Sundays. We have 2 hours each day, Thursday and Sunday, for 12 weeks. So I think that's about 24 classes.
24 hours.
24
hours
hours.
of learning?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's Thursdays and Sundays when students will be.
And will that be in the evenings then, or?
That will be on Thursdays. Yeah, it'll be on the evenings for Thursdays, 7 to 9. And then for Sundays, it'll be from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Okay. And, sorry, any thoughts to trying to partner with NLC as an accredited course or at all, or?
We've talked to them about sponsorship opportunity. We haven't
Me.
talked to them yet about being an accredited course now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Any other questions? Councillor Earl?
Hey, thank you both for your presentation. I think that's great. That's I think for $300, knowing what having friends that attended Vancouver Film School and knowing what that kind of stuff goes for.
Yeah.
That is a phenomenally good deal. I guess, and I note since the last time you came before us, you guys did register as a nonprofit, which is much more beneficial when you do come seeking grants.
Yeah.
have you secured any other grants throughout the community yet, or are we your first stop?
We're currently in progress with a number of different grants. We've applied to the PRRD for a grant.
Okay.
Also to the NLC nonprofit, I believe. And also
NLC Foundation.
Yeah, NLC Foundation, yeah,
Okay.
and also to co-op as well. So we're still waiting to hear back from those grants, but nothing's been approved as of yet.
Okay. Are you at all familiar with Creative BC?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good, because they do not just the film piece, but the sound, any kind of sound engineering required
Right.
usually they've got more money for that.
Okay.
So other than that, things seem pretty straightforward.
Okay.
If somebody wanted to find out more information, would they go to the KPAC website, or do you guys
Yeah.
have a website? Okay.
They can go to the KPAC website itself, and they can find the program information there,
Okay.
including the all the information that we discussed, and then payment options as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank you.
Councillor. Councillor Apollonial.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, just to say of thanks because, of course, I saw your work, especially last year, the shadow. It was impressive, and of course, really, I saw the thing that you said there. You utilize local talents and, of course, the local scenery, and then, of course, you're really promoting Dawson Creek. And thank you very much for doing this. And of course, I hope you will go far.
Oh, thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Apollonial. Other discussion? I had a couple questions. I guess one, so your students, like what's your number that you're looking for to, I guess, to fill up? And then also, what's your target demographic age-wise?
For sure. So we're looking to get 15 students, and our target demographic is 18 to 35. We have, I believe, 3 signed up so far. But yeah, our target demographic is 18 to 35 just because of, that's kind of the demographic that usually goes for arts education. So that's kind of who we're focusing in on. Of course, we are welcoming everyone of all ages as long as they're 19 plus. But yeah, that's kind of our target demographic.
Okay, so you have to be an adult then to take it?
Yeah.
You couldn't be like in South Peace or like in high school or public
Yeah,
school?
and we still intend to put on youth courses. But what we've noticed, and actually when we were putting on the youth course, and the reason why we did this was without marketing and without saying that we were doing an adult course at all, KPAC had a waiting list of 10 people, 10 adults wanting to take an arts course here. And we saw that there's an incredible demand for that, and we wanted to kind of facilitate that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't, yeah, I agree. It definitely seems like it's growing and trending, but I'm also seeing it in a lot of youth. Like
Absolutely.
whether it's being in the schools or working with the homeschooling groups or the public schools, like I'm starting to see that uptick in youth. That's, even the shows that are getting put on at the KPAC and
100%.
stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I just had that question.
Yeah, for sure.
And then Councillor Earl did ask this, but you guys are registered nonprofit?
Yeah, registered nonprofit.
Okay. I think that was all I had. So, yeah, thank you very much for coming in. Later on in Mayor's business, we'll deal with the request and we'll
Perfect.
make a decision today. And but yeah, thanks for coming in, and thanks for your commitment to growing the arts and culture in our community. And
Thank you.
such a critical part of who we are as a community. So,
Thank you.
thank you. You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Your Worship Council, thank you.
You bet. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next order of business is number 3, 2025 Strategic Priorities Chart. I don't have any updates there. Is there any questions? Council have any questions on the? No? All right. Next, late items for, I think there's no late items. No. Next 5, new councillor business. Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Worship. I was able to attend the Doig River First Nation World Cafe in Fort St. John last week. It was a great presentation, good conversation, lots of great information shared about the nation's land use planning and their tribal park. And please excuse my brutalizing the name, the Kitsada travel park that's coming here in the future. Once again, great conversation, good information, wonderful presentations, and extended an invitation while I was there to them to have the nation come to the South Peace and present to our residents and all the South Peace residents on a whole. I think it's great information for us to have, and just to have Doig River First Nation be so willing to have frank, open conversations and share their information is great, and good combat against the misinformation, that just mistaken information that happens out there. Not misinformation, just mistaken information. Was also able to attend the most recent IRCC meeting, and just want to congratulate NLC and Community Futures excuse me, for the successful nomination for the Rural Pilot Project for immigration. I think it's very exciting for our region to have that. It's going to be integral to bring ourselves more very talented, educated professionals from outside of our community and country to our region. It's going to be wonderful. I just recommend everybody to be patient. It's going to take time to build this program. Keep looking for more information and developments in the next 6 to 9 months. And then I just wanted to congratulate our local figure skating club, the Mile Zero Figure Skating Club, on hosting a very, very successful totem competition over this weekend. They hosted over 300 competitors, plus families, coaches, officials. Was very successful, and I'd like to say thank you to Ryan and his team for doing such a great job representing our community. The ice was beautiful all weekend. The Memorial Arena and Kin Arena presented themselves very well. Staff did a great job. So congratulations to Ryan and your team, and congratulations to the Mile Zero Figure Skating Club.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Councillor Parslow.
Well, Councillor McDonald and I attended a, what shall we call it, a CAT meeting, Community Action Team meeting. And we're working to facilitate the re-establishment of that, and I'm sure you'll be hearing more from us about that as that unfolds. Just one matter that is in my mind a lot, and I know it's in the mind of many other municipal councils, and is the impact of the possibility of tariffs on our capital budget, and maybe some aspects of our operating budget. I know that quite a few municipalities councils have asked for a bit of an analysis from staff, because we don't want to begin a project and find that we have a 25% tariff added on to things, and things going way over budget. So I'm just raising that as something that perhaps staff's got some comments about, but I view this as an urgent matter. I'm sure you all follow what's going on in the province with other municipalities, so I won't belabor that, but I would like to just raise that as something that we need to discuss, because it has an impact in ways that I can conceive in some instances, and other ways I'm not sure what the impact would be. But just take the rebar for concrete, of what some of the price escalations that I've heard other municipalities talk about is quite incredible. So they're rejigging their budgets so that we are not engaged in things that we don't have the money for, because the costs have gone up so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. You did want to hear from staff.
I just
on
wondered
that?
if
I don't know.
I did talk to your Friday, was it? And I was pleased to hear that staff are discussing this matter. But I just thought I'd mention it in council here because it concerns all of us, I'm sure.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, through your worship, we've had some internal discussion. We haven't done any big deep dive into anything as of yet. There's a lot of uncertainty, and it's a bit of a moving target, as we all know. It changes day by day. So, I mean, if council wishes, we certainly could do some more work on that and bring back a report, or we could continue to do our own investigations on our side, just some due diligence. But I mean, I think we have to be prepared for some uncertainty. I think this year is definitely going to be one of those years. So we're going to do a little bit of our own work, anyways. I don't know if it requires if council needs to see anything come back, but I'll be working with Devin and Ryan on the projects that they have, and maybe we'll follow up with what some other places are learning, because I know Prince George is doing some of this work, and we have some contacts. We could connect with them. So
Yeah. Okay. So maybe even just to update it next council meeting under your updates, would that be sufficient?
Yeah,
I mean,
I can certainly provide an update once we get it. I don't know if it'll be next council, but whenever we do get that information, I'll make sure I update council what we've learned.
well, and you said it's kind of a moving target. We don't really know where it's
Yeah.
at yet. So, okay. Thank you, Kevin. Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. In that vein, as time permits, might it be worth over the next month or so reaching out to some key, the agriculture industry, and I'm thinking our local mill are particularly vulnerable to this. And it might be worth, seeing where they're at, what they need, or if there's anything we can do to help. Because I think, I know LP, the manufactured product that they produce, which has been, I think, one of the saving graces for our forestry industry here in town, a lot of that is destined for the United States. So my concern would be that suddenly becomes less economical, and certainly agriculture. Anyway, I mean, there's a lot, and certainly how much time and energy should we spend based on something that is, kind of being dangled as a threat from not the most serious person. But it's, it's something that I think is cause for concern. And I did note, I think at the last meeting when we were talking about budget, also the potential for grants from the federal and provincial government in times of economic turbulence, and what projects we could have ready to go. So that's still something I think we should be mindful of too. But I don't know if this counts as new councillor business, so I won't keep on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Anything else? No? All right. Next, adoption of minutes, 6.1 minutes of the special meeting of council held on January 21st, 2025 for adoption. Councillor McDonald, second Councillor Apollonio. Call that to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. 6.2 minutes of regular meeting of council on January 27th, 2025 for adoption. Councillor Kemp, second Councillor Sudnick. I'll call that to vote. Vote is closed and it's carried. Any business arising? No. Next, correspondence. We have 8.1 letter from grant writer, City of Dawson Creek, February 3rd, 2025, regarding a request for resolution of support for proposed application to Housing Infrastructure and Communities Canada Active Transportation Fund, Dawson Creek Trail, 17th Street Connector. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. I'll move the staff recommendation that the City of Dawson Creek supports the grant application to the Housing Infrastructure and Communities Canada Active Transportation Fund for the city's Dawson Creek Trail Connector 17th Street Connector project with an estimated value of $962,617.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kempf. Any discussion? All right, I will call this motion. Vote Vote is closed. That's carried. Next, 8.2, we have letter from the grant writer, City of Dawson Creek, received on February 3rd, 2025, regarding request for resolution of support for proposed application to Housing, Infrastructure and Communities Canada Active Transportation Fund, Kin Park Lighting. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to move the staff recommendation that the City of Dawson Creek supports the grant application to the Housing, Infrastructure, and Communities Canada Active Transportation Fund for the city's Kin Park Trail Lighting Project with an estimated value of $1,333,931.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Do I have a second? Councillor Sudnick, any discussion? No? All right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, 9 reports. 9.1, we have report number 25-028 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding 2025 Peace River Agreement allocation. Kevin, did you want to speak to this a bit before we have a motion? Just, I know there was a lot of dialogue on it and back and forth. And do you want to?
Yeah, so through your worship, I can maybe speak to the change that we saw, just a little premise on that. And then I might get Melissa to talk more specifically about just the allocation. But what I thought I'd give council just an update on the PRA. I'd sent out an email last week. We received our allotment, and it had gone down from last year. We'd seen a decrease. We saw just over $400,000, I think, of change in the PRA from the previous year. And so that was a bit of I would say we weren't expecting that, but as we dug into that, the PRA is a very complex formula that takes into a lot of things into account, not only things that happen within Dawson Creek, i.e. our assessment, population, things like that, but also takes into account our neighbors that are part of the agreement and those same factors. So it depends on our situation, and then it also depends on how our neighbors are doing. And so the reason for the change for us this year was that Fort St. John and Tumbler Ridge had seen significant growth in their populations. And so that increased their PRA allotment, and hence, it shrunk our piece of the pie. So the PRA allotment for the region went up the 2%, but ours went down about 2.5%, I think is what it worked out to be, just by nature of all the moving parts. So, and I'll maybe just let Melissa speak to just, the changes that, and just how it's allocated within the budget.
Thank you.
So as, through your worship, so as Kevin stated, we did see a decrease of $417,000. When we look at the split between operating capital, the current budget has 60% towards capital and 40% to operating. So that means a reduction of just under $167,000 on the operating side and $250,000 to the capital. The operating side, we were able to accommodate by taking a look at some, now that we have our year-end figures for 2024, we did another deep review of the budget and was able to increase run revenue bucket by $13,000, and then we were able to decrease expenses by $154,000 to accommodate that overall reduction of $167,000 that was to the operating. With the capital side, $50,000 of the $250,000 was accommodated by some additional carry forward in a project, but the remaining $200,000, you'll see there's options included in the report for council to consider on how we'd like to proceed with that reduction of the $200,000. As noted, we've got the outdoor security cameras as a project that staff are recommending. There's potential with the solar phase 1 for city facilities, or if council would like to provide alternate direction, that's an option as well that they can consider.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Melissa. And obviously unfortunate that this happened, but it did. But thank you to your team for reacting quickly to this and getting something to us in a timely manner. So thank you. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to staff. has the province given us the specific figures? I mean, from what I gather, it's not necessarily that our population decreased, it's that the rate of population increase in Fort St. John and Tumbler Ridge was such that as that piece of the pie was split on a per capita basis, they just got more of it.
Just before I pass that over to staff, can you just read recommendation 1?
Oh, pardon me.
Please.
Report number 25-028 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding 2025 Peace River Agreement Allocation Report be received for discussion.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll have a second. Councillor McDonald. I'll just call that vote on receiving this for discussion. One more to vote, please. Vote is closed. It's carried. Go ahead, Melissa. Oh, struggling here. Try this again. There you go.
So through your worship to Councillor Earl, yes, they provide us a detailed breakdown of the calculation. And so I can see that Fort St. John's population went up by 6.3%, Tumbler Ridge by 16.7%, and as well I have the assessment breakdown. I didn't include the overall reduction or increase of the other municipalities in the report. I just lumped them together, knowing that I don't know what other staff have communicated to their councils at that point. So I focused on just Dawson Creek, but they are transparent and provide all of that breakdown information. And we were even able to meet with Katrin, who helps provide backup for the calculation, and was able to talk about different scenarios.
Okay.
Yeah, and through your worship, our population went down slightly and our assessment went up, industrial assessment went up. So those two factors, of course, in the formula, make it look like, oh, you're better off because you've got less people and you've got higher assessment. So that's part of that calculation.
Plus the combination of those other two communities going the opposite. Yeah.
Now, part of that is that they use BC stats for the population, correct? And they are 2023 numbers because 24 is not out yet, and by the time they do this, and so there's always a lag. And so, but it's the same for everybody. You know, so it is what it is. You know, and next year I suspect, Fort St. John will likely see a change because the site sees, those numbers will reflect probably that. But for now, it is what it is.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Kevin. Anything else, Councillor? Oh, thank you. Councillor Parslow.
Yeah, this, we have a topic in camera that relates somewhat to this as well, that, I'm just wondering, I appreciate the notion that because of decreased revenue, we look at adjusting our budget. I'm also wondering, we go through some budget consultation processes that might generate some additional ideas when staff does some review of tariff and our exposure and stuff. That would provide some more input. So I'm just wondering if, aloud here, if we should wait until we've had some further discussions in camera that does relate a little bit to this and to staff's review, or are we going to be changing budgets 3 or 4 more times before we get to final? I'm not criticizing this. I think it's good to have this, but I'm just wondering, should we wait until we're closer to the actual final budget, given discussions that are ongoing and the discussions and feedback we might get from staff around our exposure to potential increases? I mean, we know that we're going to have a volatile time for the next 4 years, but I'm just wondering, if we make these changes now, we'll have to make some other changes perhaps, and should we just wait till it's close to the budget? Thank you.
Go ahead, Kevin. Thank you, Councillor Parslow.
Yeah, so through your worship, I mean, one of the impetus for this report now is we wanted to have the most up-to-date information as we went into the public consultation. yes, I mean, Councillor Parslow is correct. There's always going to be, or the possibility of changes. It's a living document until it's adopted, and even after that, there's always amendments that sometimes occur. So, but that was the reason why it is in front of you now is because draft 2 came a little bit earlier, and we didn't have the PRA calculations at that time, unfortunately. So we wanted to get this in front of council before the public consultation later today.
This allows Melissa, if whatever is talked about today, to have that changed for the presentation at the public consultation.
Yeah, that's correct. And again, if, you know, things can change after the public consultation and, you know, like I said, right up until the time it's adopted, but whatever council wishes.
So I guess just to Councillor Parslow's on, you know, some of these tariffs, I mean, it's pretty tough to change things for that because we don't know exactly where it's at, but if we leave as is and there's changes or something's implemented in 30 days or a month, we can adjust then once the budget's finalized as well. Like if there's going to be some pressures put on the city, we're going to have to relook at that at that time.
For sure, through your worship, it's not unusual to go through a tendering process and to find things that have changed. I mean, I think Councillor Parsley just suggesting, and he's correct, that we be as prepared and eyes wide open on that, and we will. But that doesn't preclude something that occurs through that process that we didn't expect, and having to change scope or move projects or whatever. I mean, that's not uncommon. So I think this year more than ever, we're just going to have to be a little bit more on our toes because there's more risk to that.
Variables, yeah. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Any other discussion? No? All right, would somebody like to move for recommendation 2? Sorry, was that for, Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to move that council approve the cancellation of the 2025 carryover of the $200,000 for the outdoor security cameras capital project to accommodate the decrease in the capital budget due to the confirmed 2025 Peace River Agreement allocation.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Do I have a second? Councillor Kemp, any discussion? Councillor Parslow?
This outdoor security camera project was part 1, was it? Because we were going to have some additional each year for a number of years. This is all to do with concerns in the community around downtown safety, theft, and so on. And I view that as a fairly high priority given the concerns people have. So I'm not too happy about this one. So, but am I correct that this is just phase 1 sort of thing of a multi-year project?
I think I can answer a bit of this, but I agree that, you know, obviously this is critical for our community and the safety, but the other part is from what I understand from our last council meeting that our corporate officer talked about just the procedures and bylaws that need to be in place in order for us to get this rolling, and that would take some time to get through all of that. So it would be unlikely that we would get to this point to invest this year anyways. From my understanding, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, but that's part of the reason why it's also a candidate to get put off.
Yeah, through your worship. So we originally budgeted this, council brought that forward. Again, for the very reasons you noted, the concerns in the downtown. As we started to get into it and understand what we need to do on the front end for policy, freedom of information, all of those pieces, and staff have been working on that. It's not that it's been parked. It's a bit of a process. And the reason that we put this as a candidate is because I think once we finish understanding, I'll call them the limitations of what this might be, council will want to bring that back to council and ensure that it's still something the council want to do. Because I'm not even sure that these cameras are going to allow us or maybe the same thing that council envisioned to begin with. And that's the things we're learning through the process with the freedom of information policy development and things. So step 1 is really finalize the policy development, which we're working on. Bring that back to council, have a wholesome discussion about, okay, so knowing what we know now, do you still want to proceed? Knowing what the limitations may or may not be with these cameras. Are they what you thought they would be? So, and so that's why we thought it's a viable candidate for this, because we need to do that first, and something may change out of that.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Councillor Earl?
Yeah, I mean, if I recall, basically there were two kind of possible models for other communities that had put similar cameras in place. One was you can use it for monitoring, but not retain the data or be used as any kind of evidentiary basis for a criminal prosecution. And on the other hand, you can't use it for monitoring, but when there's a warrant, use it as an evidentiary basis for criminal prosecution. So it was kind of, you know, two things that kind of met what you wanted, but no one thing that was, I think, what had been communicated to staff initially. So I think that was my takeaway. And if there's more time required, I think, yeah, obviously we need to explore what tools are at our disposal so that we're doing our part to support the RCMP and other levels of government in law enforcement and public safety. But yeah, the sense I got was that we've still got some work to do legislatively to figure out how this, what is doable, what it's usable for, and whether or not it's actually going to achieve what we want it to. So,
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Any other discussion? Oh, all right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed, and it's carried. Next, 9.2, we have report number 25-015 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding the 2024 return on investment. Okay, Councillor Kemp.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation, the report number 25-015 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding 2024 return on investments, which provides council with an annual report on the performance of the investment portfolio in 2024, be received for information.
Thank you, Councillor Kemp. Second, Councillor Sudnick. Any discussion on receiving for information? Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted some clarification. In this report, we are completely reinvesting all returns we made on our investments in 2024 into our 2025 budget. Is that true? So we're not growing our reserves. We're just reinvesting everything we made.
Go ahead, Melissa.
Through your worship to Councillor McDonald. So if I understand correctly, let me know if this is what you're looking for. So as an investment matures within 2024, any investment that matured, we were able to take the core investment plus any interest that was earned over that and reinvest it. Additionally, in May and July, when there was excess cash balance, we were able to invest additional funds. And so that's that 7 million and 5 million. Those are new investments that were made in 2024. Subsequent in 2025, we're always managing our cash balance. And so in 2025, when some of these matured earlier in the year, just in the last 2 months, we weren't able to reinvest. So we're always looking at the balance and seeing what we need. But just because we weren't able to invest, it was smaller ones, right around 2 million. That was also knowing in May and July, we had injected another 12 million into the portfolio.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McDonald. Other discussion? No. Just wanted to say thank you to Melissa, to you and your team for this. It's definitely nice to see the funds working this way for our community. So good job. All right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, 9.3, we have report number 25-019 from the city planner regarding the 2025 short-term rental principal residence requirement opt-out request. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. I will move the recommendation that report number 25-109 from the City Planner, 2025 Short-Term Rentals Principal Resident Requirement Opt-Out Request be received. Further, that Council direct staff to send a letter to the Ministry of Housing and Municipal Affairs to opt out of the principal residence requirement prior to the March 31st, 2025 deadline.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Do I have a second? Councillor Kemp, any discussion?
A couple notes based on the report. Obviously, it's nice to see the activity in the rentals and the associated economic knock-along impacts being generated by people coming in from out of town to work here, whether it's on the hospital or other projects. Certainly, that's one of the pillars of our local economy and something we rely on. I think this is one of those things that demonstrates the limitations of policy, right? It applies, when done well, to 95% of instances, 95% of the time. But there are exceptions, and hopefully, in the eyes of the province, a carve-out available because assuming this is the norm in our community or that, the local economy and the people that live here and the people who, buy whether you own a house or you rent, having short-term rentals, was it 90 days? So having any rentals under 3 months pulled from the local housing stock would be very, very disruptive to how we operate. And I don't think the intention of the policies and regulations that the provincial government put in place with respect to the housing crisis, which is chiefly in other parts of the province, would be served by holding our feet to the fire on this, not only because it's kind of an anomalous year based on a project that we're very happy to have in town, but it's just hopefully there is some reasonable people at the provincial level we can work with to make sure that, knock on wood, I am pleasantly surprised sometimes, so I'm hoping for that. But yeah, thank you, staff, for bringing this back and being on the ball. I guess it's better to preemptively try and work with people as opposed to getting a letter saying, okay, well, you're out of the business of short-term rentals, whether you like it or not, and then have to go back and try and get them to reconsider. So,
thank you, Councillor. So I guess to staff, so once we've made this recommendation, it goes to the ministry. Do we give that explanation on the change in numbers for the year? Because I mean, they might look, I guess if they look at that and don't accept this, then it comes back to us and then we would take it to that level then, or do we proactively educate them on why we've chosen this?
Yeah, through your worship, I think staff had reached out to the ministry as well, just to explain. So for what it's worth, we'll see. We'll put the letter in and see what
comes back,
what we can get from it. So as Councillor Earl indicated, we believe it is a bit of an anomaly, and we hope that they see it as such. But time will tell.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. All right, any other discussion? No, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, 9.4, we have report number 25-020 from the city planner regarding temporary use permit 25-01, 1036B, 100th Avenue. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to move the report number 25-020 from the city planner regarding temporary use permit TUP 25-01 for 1036B 100th Avenue be received. Further, that temporary use permit TUP 25-01 be approved to allow for the operation of a tattoo studio at 1036B 100th Avenue for a period of 3 years.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Do I have a second? Councillor Sudnick, any discussion? Oh, all right, I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, 9.5, report number 25-011 from the Community Culture and Recreation Manager regarding policy amendment leisure access policy.
Your worship, I did notice that we have Lindsay here. If you want an update or a bit of background on the leisure access policy, she could speak to that. I think it's a good awareness piece for council and the community just about what it is and how it's being used.
Okay.
But it's totally up to you.
I think that's fine. We got time. I'm just going to take a 2-minute break before we do that. So here to just give a bit of an update on this report. So welcome, Lindsay. Good morning. You just push that button there and then I'll turn it on. And yeah, the floor is all yours. So
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship.
You're welcome.
I'm bringing the leisure access policy for a small update, but I'm also bringing it for information for council. The policy itself, as written, we get a lot of individual and family requests for waiving of fees for our leisure services, like our pool usually, climbing wall, public skate. We also get a few requests for some of our programs. So we are able to waive up to $5,000 per year. Right now, we take a quarterly intake. So it's $1,250 each quarter. We'd like to change it to a monthly application. We feel like we could offer it to more people. They would remember it more. They would remember that it's there. And then if they are unable to access services that month, perhaps in the next month, they would be able to get it instead of having to wait 3 months. We'd also like to bring information for the group requests because I know council receives a lot of requests from different user groups for swim passes or skating passes for things like that. And under the leisure access policy, we can offer up to 20 group passes per year. For groups, they would have to apply in the same way. They'd have to fill out a form, let us know what the application is for, and we can give up to 20. In the case that we've got too many applicants, we would send that application back up to council for review in case we couldn't offer them. But we just really wanted to bring awareness to this policy because we feel like it could be used more in the city.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So you can stay there because I think maybe we'll get a recommendation on the floor and then we can have some discussion and if there's any questions. So thank you. So we'd like to, Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will move the recommendation that report number 25-011 from the Community Culture and Recreation Manager regarding policy amendment, leisure access policy be received. Further, that the policy be amended to allow monthly application intakes, reflect current staff titles and recreation programs, and updated Statistics Canada website link.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Do I have a second? Councillor Apollonio. Discussion. I guess just before I open for discussion, I just want to thank you for bringing this report forward. It's lots of learning in this position, and every day there's something new. So I was grateful to see this and the work that went into it, but also that we offer it to those that need it. So thank you. Councillor Earl, did you have?
Yeah, I just echo your sentiment. Obviously, the constant theme we return to here in council chambers is affordability and sustainability. How do we maintain the level of services we expect of ourselves and the community expects of us, while trying to thread the needle and keep things affordable for people. And I think this is one of those initiatives where you're not, people who would benefit most from access to these facilities aren't being priced out, and we're able to provide that. And I think the fact that staff is being proactive in keeping an eye on the program and coming up with ways to make it more responsive to the public's needs is a good thing in this time, and I'm also happy to see it.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Councillor Parcel.
I think this is a good change as well. This is just, you've got the attachment here with all the changes. And some of them are, of course, because of the change in practice, which I support. Some because you have different title than the predecessor, but this is a very small point. So supposing the next general manager was a he, would we'd have to have this changed again. So why did you, what's the reasoning behind the deletion of or the insertion of her, is it? Hers inserted, right?
Slash with her, so it's his or her.
His or her.
Okay.
So they preempted your question.
Thanks for your guidance, Councillor. Oh, it's invaluable. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barslow. Any other comments? No?
No, I think
Okay.
it's a great, I'm pleased the city does this, and I think this is a step forward.
Yeah, thank you. I had one question, just where it stated last year that $6,648 was requested. Obviously, the budget, I think, is $5,000, so I see that $4,551. Is that because some didn't meet the requirements, or is it because it was getting close, so we were declining some, or what was the reasoning for that?
Thanks, Your Worship. The reason was because with the quarterly intake, we find in the past couple years, and this current year included, a lot of people are requesting at the beginning of the year. So if we only have that $1,200 at the beginning of the year, any over that will get denied. And then at the end of the year, so in December, we did an intake, and there was less than the $1,200 that was requested. So we weren't able to, we went back and we looked at previous applicants, but all of them had applied again. So all the previous applicants had been allocated. So we just weren't able to allocate the funds. We hadn't advertised that much because we were so far over in the other quarters. So we feel like if we advertise more, we would have even more. This current year, we just did an intake last week, and we had 2,200 apply, and we were only able to allocate 1,200. So,
Well, there's another question when you go to monthly, which I think is a great idea, but I mean also that I think we're seeing it at all levels of community and, provincially and in our country, just the pressures that all citizens are facing. So has this been something that you guys have potentially discussed, finding room somewhere else in the budget to increase this one a bit more, or maybe this was to Ryan, I don't know, are you predicting, if we're over in 1 month or the first quarter, is this something that, is going to be used up more, especially now switching to monthly?
Through your worship, I think that as soon, and now once this is adopted and we move to the monthly process, I think it's going to be telling to us to be able to respond to the needs of the community quicker instead of quarterly. If we end up being or look to be where we end up going over, I think it'll be a conversation that we have internally to see how we can meet the needs and the demands while being respectful and responsible to the dollars that are available. I don't think it's the intention of this program specifically to, this whole program is designed to reduce barriers to entry to our recreational services and amenities. So in previous years, we've been very close to be going over, but we've never, from my understanding, gone over. And if the times change, and I think it's also, again, that nature of the timing of quarterly to monthly that we may see us exceed or come close to that. And I think internally we'll have those discussions and either come back for an update for you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Earl?
So just kind of for clarification, for now, we're going to proceed on the assumption that the amount allocated for this program in the budget is sufficient, and then as we see what the new paradigm reveals, we may revisit that. Because the thing, essentially, looking at what's covered in the passes, swimming, skating, rock wall climbing, and sports, other sports presumably. But this is similar, as far as a budget item, this is similar to us giving out swim passes requested through a grant, which is to say we track it and we track the dollar value that we would charge the public for it. But it's not, the cost of it, to have an extra 5 people a month using the pool, it's something we track as responsible stewards of public resources, but it doesn't appreciably increase the labor or the base cost. So if we were to find out that the amount we're allocating isn't sufficient, that wouldn't necessarily be a hard cost in the sense that it's just something we track for accounting purposes. And I guess the second thing is, when we give out these passes, do we track how they're utilized? Like, are we tracking to, because I mean, some people might get, is it like X amount of tickets, or is it like a monthly family pass?
To Councillor Earl, through your worship, we track it, we put a punch card on their account. So the same as if you would purchase a punch card, it's the same type of punch card. So you go to the pool, you tell them your name, and they take off a punch. Families do receive a family punch card if we're doing the allocation, and individuals just receive whatever demographic they're in for that punch card.
Okay. And we are tracking usage, and
Yes.
the money applied against the budget is based on what's used, or
Yes.
what's, okay.
The money applied to the budget is based on the punch card itself.
Okay.
We recognize that right away. So we take out the money from the 5,000 immediately.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, on our end.
Okay, cool. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Parcel?
Just a couple of things that there are some rural residents I know who mistakenly applied for this. But the need is out there as well. I'm just wondering if this is something that the regional directors should be asked about supporting, so that we want all people to be able to avail the opportunities. We are with barriers between where the city barrier is and where the rural residents are somewhat artificial. So I'm just wondering if we shouldn't consider asking Area D and E to maybe mirror this, if they would consider that, so that there's some opportunity for, people who meet the criteria laid out in this from rural areas might be supported by their regional directors. Just the other comment I want to make is that something that stayed in my mind, and maybe the staff who were in attendance at the NCLGA supported workshop in Prince George concerning addictions and the opioid crisis, etc., was the presentation of what can municipalities do. And one of the things was to make sure that we have a lot of low barrier sports and recreation and creative pursuits. So fine, we'll deal with the fee here, but I need to know about equipment. Wasn't there an organization in Dawson Creek that supported the provision of things like skates and hockey equipment and so on? Because that would seem to be a barrier. The access, the skating fee is removed, or the swim fee is removed. Obviously, there's not much in the way of equipment for swimming, but I'm thinking about sports such as hockey. And given that the research showed around mental illnesses and so on, there was the importance of low barrier stuff for young people. One of the barriers that still exists with this is access to equipment. And of course, lead fees. There's some kids couldn't even think about being part of a lead, let's say a hockey team and stuff, because of the cost. And I'm wondering how that might be addressed.
From my understanding of it is the ice surface fees that would be waived in here would be like for public skating or city-held events. For as far as minor hockey or figure skating or speed skating, they have their own programs in place that help with equipment, membership, their annual fees. I know I was speaking with minor hockey about this exact same thing, and they haven't utilized theirs fully, but they do have a fund for that annually. And I asked if it was like overused, and it's not. So they have substantial funding in place already to help with those individuals. I'm assuming figure skating and the other, I see Councillor McDonald put his name up here, so I'm assuming he can speak to that too. But yeah, so I'm.
Well, that's good to hear. I can interject. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
But then how do we overcome the issue of stigma? That's always a big barrier, right? People the stigma of asking for something, right? I don't know how we deal with that. That's a big.
Well, I guess like through this program, if somebody was to apply and they had a child that was minor hockey, I would assume we would connect with minor hockey and connect those pieces to avoid that. But you let Ryan speak if I missed something there or misunderstood.
Yeah, I think I can echo some of your comments, Your Worship. It is for drop-in opportunities. And so when we consider, say, drop-in ice, or public skate, there are the avenues that the city's already invested in helmets and skates and stuff. So we do have measures in place to reduce those barriers. You are correct, Your Worship, that there some of the other partners that we would call minor hockey, figure skating. I'm not too familiar with the figure skating side, but I do know on the minor hockey side that there are, I don't want to say programs, but they do have an awareness and they do provide opportunity. And I do know that there are other opportunities throughout, I'm going to call it the ecosystem of this, of whether it be kids sport and other initiatives out there that help further build upon concurrently and of the program that we have with Leisure Access. And they're not all tied together, but they all work together.
Thank you, Ron. Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Worship. I was going to say, figure skating does have pathways to funding as well to get past that. But I was also going to highlight, based on Councillor Parslow's comments of how important the court flooring in the kin will be in the future to providing more access to low barrier opportunities for good, healthy leagues, activities, etc. And it may be something that we need to keep in mind for our budget next year, that we may need to increase our leisure access budget on that, so that, because we're hoping to create so many more programs, that it gets past just the drop in. If we are able to host a city badminton, city, always forget the football one or the soccer one, foosball or whatever it is, I don't know. Futsal, thank you, futsal. Just those programs, and it's, by what the mayor said, do we need to increase, etc. It may be something we need to be very aware of moving forward for next year.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Any more discussion? A lot of discussion. Is there a recommendation? It's on the floor. Okay. All right, I will call this a motion to vote. Vote is closed, and it's carried. Thank you, Lindsay. All right, next order of business 9.6, we have report number 25-023 from the Deputy Corporate Officer regarding policy amendment conference attendance council. Councillor Kemp.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation, the report number 25-023 from the Deputy Corporate Officer regarding policy amendment conference attendance council be received. Further, the council adopt the amended policy to include the Local Government Leadership Academy Leadership Forum to the list of the regularly attended conferences.
Thank you, Councillor Kemp. Do I have a second? Councillor Apollonio. Any discussion? All right, I just wanted to thank Councillor McDonald as well, because he was, I believe, going to attend this one. So, yeah, thank you for offering to do that. So, all right, I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed, and it's carried. Next order of business is 10 bylaws, nothing there. 11 mayor's business. 11.1 updates. Go through a few of these. NCLGA is just coming up in May, but our deadlines to put forward any resolutions is March 14th. So I would suggest by next council meeting, we kind of get those in to give the staff time. I am working on one around healthcare. I've had some conversations with some of the healthcare professionals and as well Councillor McDonald just about as he'll speak to it at NCLGA as a resolution just to continue to advocate for the struggles that mainly that our doctors are feeling with the new fee structure in rural communities throughout BC. So I've had some dialogue with some physicians, some healthcare workers, with Councillor McDonald as well. So we'll try to get that one together in the next week or two and bring that. But if there's anything else, just wanted to throw that out there. We should get working on those. Second, economic development. I just wanted to give a bit of an update. Obviously, there's an economic development fund that the mayor has that's been used for economic development. The first couple of years, it wasn't used a lot, and basically it was just more for just learning. There's a lot of learnings going on with the city and how all this works. So we've made a lot of progression. So I just my goal for that funding is multiple things. So one, Councillor McDonald spoke earlier about the test pilot for the foreign professionals coming. So I might utilize some of it for that. As well, we've had talk about healthcare, conferences, retaining professionals, some new business stuff, airport. We've had a lot of discussion about a lot of different things, about getting some new business to town, whether that's downtown, outside. So I'm just going to start looking a little bit more outside. I've met with some community business leaders just about, just some support and ways we can move that forward. Lots of that won't be a cost to the city, but there's going to be some opportunity to contract some of this out. So I'm just going to look at down that. So if anybody has any questions about it or ideas, just feel free to reach out to me anytime, and for, now or for coffee or lunch, and we can go through it. But I just wanted to kind of bring everybody up to date where that was. I think, that test pilot, I believe there'll be something coming to council in the near future with that. So next, brownfields, I just wanted to put on here. We've had a lot of discussion over, right through the campaign process to this whole term around the brownfields, and you hear it constantly within the communities. So I met with a business owner a while ago, and we had some talk about if there's a ways that we could look at, bringing different policies and bylaws on that will maybe hold businesses and landowners a little bit more accountable for unsightly stuff. So we've had some discussion around that. Also talked about does a person look at grants to clean these up, like where you could put meshing around the fence to maybe showcase pictures or different things of the city, just to help clean some of these up. So I just wanted to throw it out there because I wanted to, maybe get the general consensus if council's interested in us putting something forward, that maybe I'll draft a motion or a resolution for the next council meeting to have staff look into what different policies and procedures we can do to hold these places accountable, but also for potentially grants to help enhance and clean some of these properties up. I just felt like there's been a lot of talk, so I just wanted to get that out there and see what council's thoughts are. I'll open it up now, Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. This has been a source of constant frustration and interest to me for some time. I will, if I can find it still in my email, I'll forward along, and I think I forwarded it before, based on the conversation we had at UBCM with, I think, a deputy or assistant deputy, whatever there, with respect to brownfields and the provincial government resources. I've also done a bit, not as much as I'd like to, because life happens, with respect to a federal organization that provides resources around brownfield development. And we've had, I think, the conversation around what you can do to compel business owners to remediate sites or kind of hold them to account. The frustration we're going to run into, or that we're currently running into, is we can create potentially new bylaws, or the provincial government can create new bylaws. The issue is they can't retroactively apply them to a piece of land from 20 years ago when that contamination might have occurred.
But what about for unsightlies, if you got fences falling over and currently we can't do anything like that?
So stuff like that, that's not necessarily contamination related.
No.
But if you were looking to, put something new in place so that somebody who's running a business now that you could reasonably expect at the end of that building's life, there's going to be contamination issues because of the nature of the business. What can you put in place to ensure that they don't just pack up shop and leave the piece of property sterilized in the middle of town and pay the tax as opposed to actually remediating it. That's tricky, but I think a conversation. A lot of this is going to rely on provincial governments spending political capital, I guess, if you want, on parts of the province where there necessarily aren't a lot of votes for the politicians who make these decisions. So it's an interesting conversation. I'm glad we're not letting it fall by the wayside, because I think it is one of the key pieces to how do we diversify our local economy, how do we build a sustainable local economy. It's very hard to do when you've got unsightly properties that are effectively sterilized from development. But yeah, I'll forward along that email, and hopefully that can inform discussions, and obviously anything I can do with respect to that. Another piece, because we did ask about grant funding for remediation around environmental stuff, and the issue is I think there is some limited grant funding available for municipalities that own those properties. The issue is, as Kevin would probably echo, municipalities are hesitant to take those properties off the hands of the owners because then you assume the liability for them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a catch-22 in the sense that, yes, there might be some funds available, but if the funds aren't sufficient to actually fully clean the property or remediate it, then the municipality is left with the liability. So, yeah, fun
Thank you.
considerations. Thank you.
Well, and I definitely understand the limitations and some of the struggles that have went down, but I'm thinking more like when I'm talking grants is like if I was chatting with Kevin and Ryan actually the other day about it, but like if we could do up a grant that would allow them to cover their fencing with something that says, oh, look, downtown city of Dawson Creek this way, or pictures of lakes and mountains, like something that takes the visual away is more what I was thinking of, not grants to help them remediate their land, but more just to help beautify it when you're coming through our community. And, we've kind of just accepted them as are, but they're, yeah. So, okay. So everybody's kind of on the same page. I can bring something forward. Okay. All right, next crime. I just, had this on here. Obviously, the safety and well-being of our community is always at the forefront for all of us. So just wanted to give a shout out. I know we had a string of events a couple of weeks ago that I guess to go back a little bit, we had this a couple years ago, and our RCMP have done an unbelievable job over the last while to really help with the crime numbers in our community, make this city feel like a safer place. And I say our RCMP, I don't mean just them. I mean our RCMP, the whole team there, but also there's a lot of community groups that have helped with that as well. But we were just seeing, a lot of positives come out of that. And then we had this spike a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, it just kind of brought that fear back into the community. But I really feel like the way the RCMP handled this in multiple areas. So one, they did media releases right away, educating our residents on real details of what happened. Our RCMP members acting as quickly as they can. They had a charge placed within a week of one of the incidents, which is completely unheard of in today's world. So, and then from the provincial support as well from all these different organizations coming up here, it's just been amazing. But like anybody in our community, these RCMP that are they're out there front line, putting themselves out there to protect our community and keep it safe. And one of the members was fired upon, and it hits home quick when that's your conversation that you hear on a morning, is that's what's happened. And so I just obviously we feel for them. We've let them know that we are very grateful for the membership in our community, the RCMP, and their whole team there. And, I just wanted to really touch base. And I want to thank them, because I think that there's been a lot of wins that have come out of this stuff. I'm grateful for things ended the way they are, because it could have ended at different circumstances, which I'm grateful that didn't happen. So, just wanted to put that out there and really just thank them and everybody in the community that contributes to that. So, Business roundtable, had a business roundtable a few weeks ago. I just wanted to thank Melissa. She attended, well, with a few other of the city team, but she went through her budget presentation with that business roundtable. So something new that we've been trying to just really get more out to the community. We always talk about we don't get anybody here for budget consultation and hearings. We'll find out today, but and Kevin and I it kind of was triggered when we were in UBCM. We were talking to another community that had the same struggles, and then they started going out to the community and educating. So we've done this now with the seniors roundtable and the business one. I see it growing more, like where we would maybe, go to the seniors hall when they have their meetings, or going to different business groups, or not just business, but community groups. But it was kind of a good test, and there was a lot of good feedback on both. It was great open dialogue. So I just, want to thank those that attended, and thank you, Melissa, as well for your work on that. I said thank you a lot to you today, so. You're amazing. Next, Economic Development Roundtable we had with a presentation from Ovintiv. Jennifer and Adam from Ovintiv were in for an hour, and just kind of went through a lot of pretty much everything from what they're dealing with to projects to, just so much. It was an extremely valuable hour with them, and very educational. I do these often, but that one, there was a lot of education in that meeting, so I just wanted to thank them and council for attending that. So Western Financial grand opening, that was a few Fridays ago. Just wanted to really congratulate them on their grand opening of their new business. I mean, one, it's obviously amazing to see the investment in the community, but more so the investment into their membership and for their team there, because it is a beautiful facility. And if you weren't there and you got the chance, I would go check it out. They did an amazing job. It is well done, very modern looking, very bright. You could tell it just I know a lot of their staff members from just being in the community, but you can just tell how much an atmosphere like that creates to the culture, because they were just all very very happy and energetic. It's a beautiful facility. They've added a drive-through service to it as well, so a new feature for the community. And so it was just great to see for many aspects. Gems for Gems. I met with lady named Fiona a little while ago. This is, there'll be something that potentially could come further. We're just kind of looking into what this is, but it's about a safe surrender facility for babies and mothers in the community. So it's just something that a lot of places in Canada have put these facilities in. There's not I don't know a whole bunch of the details to the cost, and Kevin has looked into it a little bit as well. So she'll likely come and do a presentation to council in regards to it. So I just wanted to touch on that. Young Life, I met with Bryce, the leader from Young Life, last week. Just kind of an update how they're doing. I know he did come in here before. They had some struggles coming out of COVID financially. They have recovered a little bit from it, but they definitely are still feeling the financial pressures like a lot of nonprofit organizations in our community. So I just wanted to kind of bring awareness to that. One thing that I appreciate is it's youth related, and when he came and did his first presentation, they were down to about 15 youth coming out of COVID. They're currently up around 50. So it was just amazing to see the growth in that, and that it's continuing to grow and giving youth. There's been, so I just wanted to mention that. South Peace Synergy meeting, had that last week. A lot of updates. Councillor McDonald attended that as well as myself. And there was producers from the area as well as landowners. So it's just basically getting them in a room and just having some open dialogue. It's a newer formed committee within the last couple of years. So I believe, is it quarterly or quarterly meetings? So I didn't have a lot to update from there besides that it is also as well, it's educational and just to listen. Nurses Union conversation. I don't have a lot from that. I met with the head of the BC Nurses Union last week. With just some dialogue around where they're going and that they're continuing to push to for the nurse care per patient, and that the numbers are growing, that they're getting to a more satisfiable category. I mean, there's nurse shortages throughout everywhere, so I spoke a bit to that. But medical staff dinner, had that couple, I don't know, feels like it's 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was an amazing thing. This was put on by the medical staff team. So Dr. George and his team put this on. So they had a day of bowling with the physicians and families, and then they had a dinner that was hosted. So myself and Councillor Sudnick were invited to it, and we attended, and it was amazing. There must have been 7 or 8 of the physicians were there. There was a nurse practitioner, a couple other healthcare providers. But what I took away from it the most was that, yes, we are short physicians in our community, and we all see that and face it, but their team culture and their camaraderie within was definitely there. Like, you can tell that they're very supportive of each other, and they have a very good environment within themselves. So we got to continue to advocate for them, because there is extreme pressures on them. They are, burning the candle at both ends each and every day to help with diversions and really just to help provide good quality care to our residents. And they are ran as thin as any profession is. So, later on I have another memo to bring forward, but it just reiterated the point. I mean, I'm grateful for who we have here and their team. I really am. I had some great conversations with all of them, and Councillor Suddick did as well. I got to meet a few of the doctors that I didn't know. But it was just a really good evening and great to see everybody out. So, Wild Sheep Foundation banquet, I attended that a few weeks ago. It was held at the Ovintiv Center. So just wanted to give a shout out to that organization for hosting. I think this is their 4th or 5th year hosting this in our community. They're very big in the U.S. and in Western Canada. They do a lot to help with sheep conservation. All the money that is raised at that event here stays right in this local area to help with that. And they're doing a lot of burn stuff right now, and they have been the last year or two to help protect the conservation of sheep. So, but also on that, I wanted to give a shout out to the Ovintiv Events Center and the team down there. They did as always, a phenomenal job with the banquet. And I had another commitment, so I attended a little bit late, so I didn't get to eat. But anybody that was there said the food was amazing, and the facility was just set up perfectly. I think there was 500 people attended it as well, so it was well attended. So last Tumbler Ridge, got to go to Tumbler Ridge for their council meeting and present the New Year baby, Wilhelmina. I know I spoke to it at the last council meeting, but since then we made it to Tumbler Ridge, and myself and Mayor Krokauka and their council, we presented to the family. It was pretty amazing to do. We gave a package, gave probably the first ever blanket to a baby that has the Tumbler Ridge logo and City Dawson Creek logo on it. So it was just amazing. We've always done this in the South Piece, recognized. It's just usually the 2 years that I've sat here, it's been a resident of the City Dawson Creek, so we've invited them in. This year it was a resident of Tumbler Ridge because it's in the South Piece. So it was wonderful to go up there and meet the family, and they're healthy. It's their first little baby, and so it was just amazing to be part of, and and to do it with Tumbler Ridge. Like, we talk about. We're here for the City Dawson Creek, but I think bigger picture, we're here for our region and the community. When I say community, or this council does, it's about the whole region. And it's very clear that the mayor and council of Tumbler Ridge is on the same page, because it is regional. We don't sit here and do what's just right for us. It's about making it best for the whole region. So it was really nice. So before I go to the next, any questions on any of those? No? All right. 11.2, we have the delegation request from MacWood Film Arts Development Society. So there was an ask there for some funding at different levels between $2,500 and $15,000 to help them host this school that or education that they're proposing. So I don't know if anybody, council, I guess before we get a motion, what's our grant budget? How's it looking?
So through your worship, remaining is $7,700. We've committed 38% so far.
What was the total? Was 120 before? 116?
Of the total budget for a grant?
Yeah, it was the total budget.
12,500.
Or 12, yeah, it was 12,500. Okay, I was even close. I don't know where that number came from.
Same numbers.
All right, would anybody like to put a motion forward? I guess the other part is, yeah, I don't know. I guess it could be any value or no value too, right? I mean, regardless, we need to get something forward, right? Yeah. Councillor Parslow.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because is this just a one-shot deal, or is this a continuing multi-year proposal? I just apologise for asking that question, but I wasn't here for the.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Earl?
Well, I don't, the impression I got is that this course, the sponsorship they were asking for was for this specific course, which is running for a couple months, starting in March. I'm sure if there's success, the organization, well, I presume if it's successful, the organization will run the course again. I know they talked about running a course for youth, a similar course, but they didn't give any specifics. So I assume that this is just for this specific course in this one instance.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Thank you, Councillor Earl. I guess could we get a motion for discussion? Is that? Don't have to? No, okay. Yeah, I'm kind of, I guess, just to open the conversation up, I'm kind of on the fence a little bit about it. I appreciate both Ryan and Grady for what they do, and I've been part of some of it, and I definitely see their passion for this and growing it, and I support it on that aspect. I think it's great for arts and culture in our community. The other side of me is that it's a significant amount of money, and we don't have a big grant budget, and we're in February, so 1 month in. So to commit, even at their minimum ask, $2,500, that will put us over 50% of our grant gone in the first month. So, and I generally, I guess just I'm very much about moving forward with youth and stuff. So I get this is an adult one, but that puts it on the fence a little bit. Doesn't make it any more important, but I just, knowing that our grant budget's small, youth is kind of at the top of my list when I'm looking at things. For that reason, it also puts it on the fence, but I, definitely not saying any of that because I don't support what they're doing and what it's bringing to the community in arts and culture. I'm just not sure if, where I'm at. I'm just on the fence. So I don't know if anybody else has any discussion or willing to make a recommendation. Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Worship. I'll make a recommendation just so we can continue discussion. I'm going to recommend that we support the Tier 4 sponsorship request of $2,500. And I'll speak to it when.
Okay, thank you. Have a second? Councillor Sudnick? Go ahead.
For me, we've had many conversations around this table about the Calvin Crux Center and our desire to see it be used more as the art cultural center it is meant to be. And we're receiving an opportunity right now to help support that, just that exactly, to bring more arts and culture to the Calvin Crux Center right now. I know you just spoke about the ACDEV fund, Your Worship, and I know there's plans for the ACDEV fund, but I wonder if there's a possibility to take that $2,500 out of the ACDEV fund, because it will be directly trying to help support another growing industry in the community, like these two wonderful gentlemen said. And these are two gentlemen who come with a pedigree. They have won awards at film festivals. They have helped local businesses a lot in this community. I know that is through their for-profit side of their business, but supporting this side just may help support a budding industry and budding tourism, etc. Just thoughts.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Any other discussion? Councillor Earl.
I do appreciate Councillor McDonald's sentiment around the conversations we've had about the utilization of the Calvin Crux Center and what we can do to support growing the arts and performance arts and visual arts and stuff like that, as the facility was initially intended to do. Yeah, this is difficult for me. I'd like to see them get something, but your concern around the limitations of our grant budget are weighing on me insofar as $2,500 is a bit steep, given that will, as you said, deplete the allocation by 50% within the first 2 months of the year. So, not sure if I can support $2,500, but maybe a lower dollar amount, like $1,000 or $1,500, might be more in keeping with what I could manage.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Earl. Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Yeah, I'm kind of, I don't know, I guess, yeah, the 2,500, I agree with, everything both of you said, and I'm on the same page. I think it's a great thing and great purpose. I just, at $2,500, I don't think I could support it just solely on where our grant budget is. I think if we had a higher grant budget, it would be easy to do, especially just being right, in the beginning of February. I mean, the other thing, I guess, this isn't until March. They've applied for other grants. They've done other things. So, I mean, we could get an update closer to see where they're at, but I don't know. That's tough too. But yeah, I don't know. I think, I support them. I've done some projects with them too. They do an amazing job. And I did that one project with them, and it blew me away how professional they were and how fun the video was and how good it was. But, so I do support them, and I do support arts and culture. It's just the dollar figure, and I think of the stuff that we had coming last year. It's just, we've had some new things this year that we've sponsored that we haven't sponsored in the past, whether it was the BC Wildlife and then also the figure skating carnival. That's the first time we've done it. So we've had, a substantial part of our budget go to two new things, and we're in January. So I think for that reason, I'd probably vote against the 2,500. But any other discussion? No. All right, I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. And it's defeated. Myself, Councillor Earl, Councillor Kempf, Councillor Parslow, and Councillor Sudnick were opposed. Do we need any other direction? Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. I would move we sponsor for the amount of $1,000 from the grant budget.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Do I have a second? Councillor Kempf. Any discussion on this?
Nothing above and beyond what I've already stated.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. All right, I will call this motion to vote. Sorry, did I jump the? Okay. Vote manually? Okay. We'll just do this vote manually. So the council authorizes sponsorship of $1,000 to MacWood Film Art Development Society towards the filmmaking course for adults to be held on March 6th to... 29th. Wasn't March 6th to March 29th. It was March 6th to 29th at the Calvin Crook Center of the Arts. So all those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Councillor Parslow was opposed. All right, next order of business 11.3. Oh, there we go. Councillor Earl,
I'll read out this whole motion.
you can just do
This
that.
long-winded.
The proposed motion.
I'll move the proposed motion that council authorize the mayor to engage in a meeting with Josie Osborne, the Minister of Health, to address the adverse effects that the modification of the Practice Ready Assessment Program have had on rural communities, particularly with the inclusion of urban centers. Further, should the minister be available for an in-person meeting, the mayor may be accompanied by up to 2 healthcare professionals. And finally, that the expenses incurred by the healthcare professionals for this engagement shall be allocated to the mayor's travel and accommodations budget.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Do I have a second? Councillor Kemp? I'll speak to this. So, I just had a lot of dialogue. Actually, it's been over the last year, but with a lot of the physicians and some of the struggles that rural communities are facing. I spoke to it a little bit earlier about NCLGA resolution. And I just feel the urgency that we reach out to the Josie Osborne, new Minister of Health, really just to address those concerns, but also just to see if she's potentially aware of them already and what direction she sees going with them. The Practice Ready Assessment Program has been one that's been in, I believe, don't quote me on these, but I believe since 2015, it's been a program for rural communities that allowed for these PRA physicians to come over, and there was a precedent set to allow rural communities to have them. So since in the last 2 to 3 years, they've changed some of that policy. They've brought in new incentive programs for urban facilities that have put it on a very fair playing field. So it's just added extreme pressure to rural communities in BC. We're seeing like an intake or like an increase in diversions in all rural communities. It's a struggle, and we're seeing, I can speak on behalf of our local physicians because I got relationships with them, but they're working hard and they are burning their candle at both ends to provide care for our community, and they're in a system that's really set up to fail. Like it's really a struggle for them, and the reason why I kind of brought this forward, I've had a lot of dialogue last week, and there's a bit more going on this week, and we're drafting some stuff. But I just wanted to put this forward now because I'd like to get it out to Minister Osborne. And it could be as, simple as maybe she'd be willing to come up here, or it could be a video conference. So I kind of tried to cover everything in the motion. And the reason why I wanted to include 2 healthcare professionals, that I haven't quite spoke to them directly if they would come, but healthcare is very hot. It's very above my vocab. Like, it's so confusing. There's so many different levels and layers to it. When you talk about all the different funding structures for physicians, there's 4 different funding structures within BC, all the incentive programs, all the things they really face. So I just felt it would be beneficial to have 1 or 2 of them with me to really engage and hit home about what the facts are. Because I've been, I'm grateful for a few of all the physicians, but Dr. Duplessis and Dr. Remy have worked a lot with myself and Councillor Sudnick. We spent a lot of time with them educating us on all the different levels, but I'm still so uneducated in it. Although I feel like I know so much more in the last year and I can speak a lot to it, but there's way more than that. So I just felt, and then the other thing for my own travel wouldn't need to come to council because that can just come out of the mayor's travel. It was more just if they could come, and that was an opportunity where we could take that funding out of. I have yet to use up my mayor's travel budget in the first 3 years here, so there's definitely would be room in it if this could happen, and that's only if they can come with me as well and we get the meeting. So yeah, so that's kind of in a roundabout way. Also just like to throw a thank you to Tab and Kathy for helping me on short notice come up with this memo and working their magic to put it together, so thank you. Any questions or discussion, Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Worship. I would just like to make just a recommendation that if you are unable to get two healthcare professionals to go with you, I'd like to recommend that you take Councillor Sudnick with you. He's been such a part of healthcare advocacy in this community for so long. I'm sure he can speak to it from a very educated position.
Yeah.
And I think he'd be a valuable asset down there with you to speak on the community's behalf.
Yeah, good idea, I don't disagree, so. Would we need to add that to? No, okay. Any other discussion? No, all right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed, it's carried. All right, 12, Chief Administrative Officer, operational updates.
Good morning. Thank you. A couple of updates for you. Start with water. Things are holding steady, but the cold weather has seen flows slow in the Kiskadna. Not surprising. So we'll see how that goes. Reservoirs are in good spots. The flow in the river still meeting our withdrawal, so we're able to match that up. So that's okay for now. The release from Bear Hole is doing what it's meant to do, and I think had we not had that, the river would have been froze off by now. So, speaking of cold weather, this type of weather makes things extremely slippery around town. I know we've had some complaints about people asking for sand and whatnot, and believe it or not, we are out sanding long hours each day. It's just when it gets to this high 20s, low 30s, the sand tends to scatter. It doesn't stay in place very long, so I just wanted to let people know. I assure them we are out sanding, but it is a bit slick, and this cold weather slows down the snow removal as well. It's just by nature of it, everything moves a little slower. It's harder on hydraulics, harder on equipment. Family Day, Monday. We have lots going on. Ryan gave me some information here to share. Well, actually, Lindsay. So we've got 10 to 1 at the Oventive Event Center upper lobby. We've got the Birch Cliff Bounce Fest. We've got in the Co-op Mercer Hall, we've got laser tag and coloring. And then we've got the climbing wall that's sponsored by Shell. 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. we've got swimming, sponsored by Oventive. And then 2 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. at the Memorial Arena, we got public skate with free rentals, which is sponsored by the Shriners and the Masons. And we have coffee and treats sponsored by Tim Hortons. So we've got a lot going on. It's great, great to see. And sponsorship is really stepped up. It's everything's 100% covered cost-wise. So free for everybody to enjoy. Should be a great day. One other thing I wanted to touch on is, or maybe, is in the rec department, Lexi, if I'm correct, Ryan might correct me if I'm wrong in any of this, but initiated a leader in training program for youth age 13 to 17. So it's really about fostering leadership, teamwork, practical skills. Gone out to the schools to talk about it, have had a significant amount of interest from the youth. Have a sponsorship from ARC Resources to assist in putting this program on. Looking to try and get 12 participants in a pilot program. And it's really about getting some hands-on experience for these youth. We'll work alongside with our our rec department in some program delivery. Also have an opportunity to do first aid and some principles in healthy child development. So again, just an opportunity for exposure for these young folks, and who knows, maybe some of them will come back to us through summer employment or who knows. So yeah, some really great initiative, and I'm excited to see how that turns out. So any questions about any of that?
Lots of good things there. It's exciting. The Family Day, pretty actually amazing. I know we started that a couple years opening the facilities on Family Day, but just to hear all the community support and sponsorship was amazing to hear that. And I was also present for one of Lexi's presentations on her youth program, so it's pretty inspirational and pretty great to see the team taking those steps. So good. So
right on.
I had a question, just another thing I wanted to talk about was just, we've had a lot of discussion around that tax exemption policies. So I know that there's something that's going to be coming to council in that next bit, but just so I can understand it a little bit more, like if we were to look at something that could help, and maybe this isn't the right time to talk about this, but if we could look at something, whether it's a, 5-year kind of tax exemption policy to help spike maybe some growth in the community, whether it's, 100% and then 75, 50, 25 to 0 over 5 years. But how long, once we get that report, if that was something we wanted to go, how long would it take to get something from the city team on what that would mean to the city, what the implementations of something like that, what the risks would be?
Right.
So what would that look like? And then the other part of it is, if it is a direction we choose to go, how quick does it happen? Like before we can get through readings and bylaw and policy?
Yeah.
Just so I have an understanding.
Sure. What I know right now is that Melissa and Devin have been meeting. They're going to bring some information and really seek a bit more input, I think, from council or either at the next or the March 10th meeting. Mindful that Melissa's also doing budget, so fitting that in, but I think Devin's taking a lead on that. So either within 2 to 4 weeks, you'll have that conversation. We'll get in front of council and really talk about what the framework could look like. Here, whether it's a 5 or a 10-year or, some of those particulars that you spoke to, trying to get a sense of that. So it's really a community of the whole discussion, or a committee of the whole. Then take that away, develop the bylaw, and then bring that back to council. But before we bring it back to council, we'll have to have some legal review on that just to ensure that that is fine. And then it's really about coming back for a couple of readings for council to adopt. And I'm not 100% sure on public consultation for that or not, but we'll have to get that so we can get a bit of a timeline for that. So I would say we're in February, March. We're probably talking about late April, early May for you to have a bylaw in front of you to consider, I would think. So before, it's going to be before the building season, I think. I think that's realistic. Looking to my staff that have to do the work, but I think that's probably what we're thinking.
Okay. I guess on one thing on that, like if we did say we had an idea that we wanted to do it, 5 years building, basically citywide and wanted to do, would it make more sense to get that direction so that the team knows which direction to go versus bringing that report and then waiting another month? And I get you guys are busy, and I'm not like bringing any of this up because that it's been on the table for almost coming up on a couple years, and I don't want to miss another building season, and I don't want to miss the opportunity to help it. And that's just my personal thoughts on it, but I don't know where the rest of council sits, but I would like to, just see it.
So I think some of the questions that need to be answered is it citywide? Is it along a corridor? Is it downtown? Because some of this discussion is partnered up with a downtown revitalization. If you're doing it everywhere, then that's I guess, not focusing on the downtown, but again, that's council's decision. And then, is it applicable to all zones and all classes, or are we talking simply commercial, industrial? You know, those are the questions that we need to narrow in on. And we want to make sure that whatever we have has got the best chance for success, and we don't inadvertently either include or exclude some aspects of that. But yeah, our initial thoughts were if it was something council was going to look at, we would probably mirror it, or we would suggest mirroring it with the development permit areas, which is more of a corridor along our main thoroughfares through town and, you know, the downtown area. But those are the type of things that we want to probably get some clarity on.
Yeah, and like from a bit of the work I've done on it, and my thoughts would be that I'd be pushing for it to be done citywide, and I think we could always, you know, if that went through, depending on what, you know, the risks that brings to the community would weigh on my decision, but I would see it citywide, and if that brought some complications down the road, we could always change it, but we haven't seen a lot of growth in the community in the last while, so I think if we could spike it anywhere, whether it's residential, commercial, industry, anything would benefit our city in my eyes, but and I can't see it exploding where we're getting 100 in each, but like it's always something we could adjust to afterwards. I just I know there's been some talk around some things that are, you know, that this could potentially help push forward, so yeah, I know we've had lots of discussion around it, so I just wanted to get it out in front of council, but I'd like to see it sooner, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's our intent now, but if council gives us different direction, then we'll certainly do whatever council wishes.
Would it be too much pressure on the city team to have it as a committee of the whole at our next, maybe it doesn't even need to be a report, but maybe just some vague discussion at our next council meeting so that it's not another month
Yeah.
waiting? Would that be?
Well, we can bring, we brought a committee of the whole some time ago on it.
Yeah.
We can bring that one back and really just have the discussion. What needs to happen is we need to get a sense of the aspects that we're talking about right here is where we're headed as a whole.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Parslow?
Yeah, as you think about that, I would certainly appreciate seeing some concrete, specific examples from small northern communities where this has been applied and what benefits accrued. And we've already lost close to $1 million in tax revenue in the last, with the PRA and the BC Hydro stuff. How much more can we afford to lose, right? So do we have some parameters on that, some boundaries? But I'd like to see specific concrete examples. There's so much examples I've seen refer to development places like Whistler and stuff. And I'd like to see some northern small towns, where it's been tried and what was the tax implications and the long-term impacts.
Yeah, we can see what we can find.
Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Any discussion, Councillor Earl?
I do believe Quesnel had, and I don't know how closely it mirrors what exactly we're looking at, but I do think Quesnel, as part of their corridor redevelopment, had a component that was, I guess you'd classify it as a revitalization initiative that had some components like this.
Yeah.
And I guess the one thing that when it comes to when you're talking about tax abatements as what means of fostering development is, you know, you're not foregoing existing tax revenue. You're putting a pause on tax revenue that would otherwise not exist had people not developed there. So the needle we're trying to thread is figuring out, okay, what would we expect regularly as part of development, which the mayor noted has been fairly anemic in recent years, versus, you know, what pushes people across the finish line to make that final investment decision, and then 5 or 10 years down the road, you're collecting the full freight of taxes. And, you know, hopefully you've induced a kind of positive feedback with respect to economic development that is encouraging others to make those final decisions as well.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Any other discussion? Thanks for the update, Kevin.
Yep.
All right, next order of business, 13 diary, nothing in the diary. 14 consent calendar. Anybody want to lift anything? We'll get a motion to accept the consent calendar. Councillor Earl, second. Councillor Kemp. I'll call that to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. 15 media questions, no media. 16 recess to close meeting. 16.1 resolution to move into the meeting of council closed to the public. Agenda item 4.1, 4.2, and 5.1, section 91K negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that in the view of council could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. Agenda item 4.2, 91C, labor relations or other employee relations. Agenda item 5.1, section 91E, the acquisition, disposition, or expiration of land or improvements. If the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. Agenda item 4.2 and 5.1, 90 to be the consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to negotiations between the municipality and the provincial government. Motion to accept that, Councillor Kemp, second Councillor Earl. We'll call that to vote. One more, please, to vote. Councillor Parslow. Did you?
We got it. Locked down.
Myself.
Oh, boo. Boo, Mayor Demerit.
Vote is closed. And just
Councillor
for those that are just watching publicly, we at 12 o'clock we're going into our public consultation, which will be streamed as well. So see you then.